welcome to the channel. My name's Annie and this is my creative detour. A big hello to all my regulars. Thank you so much for stopping by with me today to do some craft. I really appreciate it. And if you're new here, welcome. I hope you really enjoy the video and we're going to have a little bit of fun today. When my mother was visiting a week or so ago, she said to me, "Now, what do you do with all of those things that you make? Where do you put them? What do you do with them?" And so I showed her the box of things that I've got, that I've made, and I've got quite a big stash actually. And I said to her that we make them and we put them in journals, and then when you make a journal, you can just go to your stash and then just load it up with a whole lot of things. And I had it down and having a bit of a look, and I thought, I have so many things that are made and finished, which I can just put into a journal, but I have quite a few things that are part made, that I've made in different mass makes, like Mass Make March or something like that. And I thought, what's the point of mass making a whole lot of things so that you've got them to use if you don't use them? But I'm going to be using up some of my things today. Now, back in March, I did a mass make where I made a whole lot of tag bases out of book page, and I've got a video for it, and it's, exactly that, tags out of book pages. And some of you will remember that I made these tags out of the book pages, just like I've got here, and I decorated them with just neutrals, black and gold, but they've all got pockets in them. Let me fold up a piece of scrap off my desk and show you that they all have pockets in them. So I made those, and I will link that video below so that you can see how I made them, and I talk through all the measurements and I show you how I made these. But what that did was it left me with, I think I had 18 tag bases. Now I've used a few on another project, and I've used some today as samples, but I've still got these. So today's mission is that I'm going to use things just from my stash. I'm going to use things that I have spent time making bases of in a mass make, and I'm also going to use digitals that I've spent time downloading, printing, fussy cutting, and getting them prepped, and they sit in bags and don't get used. So we're going to make some tags today. I've actually made 4 examples to show you at the end, but we're going to do 2 on camera, and we'll get set up and I'll show you what we're doing. Okay, so I have 2 different tag sizes that I made, and I'll tell you the sizes of what they are. I have larger ones that are 7 inches by 3.5 inches. And then I have some smaller ones that are 3 inches by 6 inches. I'm going to use the 3 by 6s today, and I think I'm going to do them at the same time. I might do it a little bit differently, but I think I'm going to do them at the same time. So you can see that I have some digitals printed out, and I've also got some pattern paper pulled out. I'll go through the digitals that I'm using because some of them are really useful. Now, I've got some labels that I have stamped on, but let me show you those. So you can see that I have spent all this time printing out things, and I've got them all cut out in bags, but I'm not using them very often. So these are the labels here. I'll show you them. So a whole lot of labels, and those ones are pretty much blank for you to stamp anything on that you want. There's also some black ones in it. There's some that have got bugs, and then there's florals. You can see that they've got leaves and things like that. So lots of different labels that are really useful in different applications, and they're from JLeeLoo, and they're called Natural Fragments. And I will link all of the digitals that I'm using today down below, and I got them from Etsy. Now I also have bugs. So you can see here I've got a bee. On one of the other examples I've got a moth, there's butterflies and there's beetles and dragonflies in it, and it's called Entomology Moments by JLeeLoo. And then the last one is this one that's all brightly coloured vintage style flowers, and they've got, you know, like a 50s or 60s sort of vibe to them. And they were from Etsy as well, and they were from 99 Cents Craft, and they're called 20 Flower Fussy Cuts. So I'll just leave that there for a moment in case you want to take a screenshot, but they're the digitals that I'm using. Now, like I said, I'm using my pre-made tag bases, and they've all got pockets in them, and so does this one. And they're just made out of book page. So you can see that I've got a focal point for each one. This one's got a flower, and this one's got a bee. And we've got a label, and I've stamped on them using either Tim Holtz stamps, I think it's Tidbits, or some of Toni's stamps from Crafty by Toni. So I'll have her information linked below as well. And I've just stamped onto the blank label some things that are relevant to the composition. And then the next thing I've got is I've got some pattern paper, and these are both from Graphic 45, and they're from different collections in my stash, and I'm trying to use up some of my pattern paper. So let's start putting this together. Now, because I have the bases made, they should come together reasonably quickly. I'm just going to ink the tag and some of the pattern paper edge just to give it some depth. Yes, I've been thinking quite a bit about my supplies, and because I got back into paper craft years ago, I used to do paper craft when the children were very little. I did scrapbooking and did their photo albums, and then, you know, life gets busy and you're doing a career and all that sort of stuff. I didn't know much about junk journaling. And so I thought to myself, oh, I want to do some craft again. It really happened when I retired, when I had my eye problems and couldn't teach anymore. Once I started to get my sight back and was able to do a few things, I didn't have a creative outlet, because obviously my work was my creative outlet. Being a designer, I was designing things all the time. And so I needed a creative outlet, and I decided to investigate paper craft. Now, I'm just going to tear a little bit of this tissue paper. I've just got a big pile of tissue paper that landed on my desk yesterday from Gorman. For those of you that live in Australia, you will know the brand Gorman. My daughter came and showed me a new dress that she bought and unpacked it in front of me. And the dress is beautiful, but she was about to scrunch the paper up, and I said, "Duh, can I have the tissue paper?" And she said, "Sure," and sort of left the tissue paper, but was a little bit surprised that I was slightly more interested in the tissue paper than the dress that she had on, which is not really true, but, you know, to her, this is rubbish. To me, it's precious. So it's hanging around my room at the moment, and I thought today, oh, I'll use it. So I'm just going to tear off a little piece of this to use while I'm chatting. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tissue paper onto that book page just to give it a little bit of texture, actually. And I'll use some glue stick for that. I'll put the glue stick down, and then I'll put this on, and I'm just going to scrunch that up a little bit, push it so it's got a little bit of texture to it. You see that? It's just got a little bit more texture on it. And then I'll glue this piece on as well. So, as I was saying, I got back into paper craft probably about 8 years ago, actually. And because I didn't really know what my thing was, because I hadn't done it for so long, I just defaulted to getting scrapbook paper. And I didn't want to do scrapbooking again, but it was what I knew. So I knew about different companies that sold scrapbook paper, and I started purchasing. a whole lot of scrapbook paper, and that's how I ended up purchasing some things from Stampin' Up! Here in Australia, because they're so accessible here. And then I started getting, like Carta Bella, and I found the Australian suppliers like Uniquely Creative and Paper Rose Studio, and started purchasing from them. And you're probably thinking, Annie, what are you waffling on about this for? And the reason is because I have a whole heap of scrapbook paper that is in my stash, and because I'm now doing quite a bit of junk journaling, I'm not really making a dint on it, and I kind of need to use some of it up. I kind of need to get on top of it a bit. So my mission is to start using a lot more things that are in my stash. Okay, so this is where we're heading with this one. But let's move on to this one. I'm going to do some stamping now of different labels and mark making. Okay, so I've pulled out Toni's stamps, and one of them is the collector, and one of them is called Labels Number 2. And I'll get my VersaFine out, and I just want to mark this a little bit. Now let's work out where we're going to put this. I think it's going to go somewhere like that. So I want to stamp one on there. And you can see that I missed a little bit, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'll just use my Artline pen and draw that line in, and no one will even know. And then with this one, stamp a few labels down where the bee's bottom is. Oh yeah, that looks good. Well, we've got one label here, one here. I think I want one here. Let's do one here, just running off the page a little bit. That's good. I've got to say that Toni's stamps are probably my favourite stamps, and then the Tim Holtz ones are second. But for those of you that watch often, you know that I use my Toni stamps a lot, and it's obvious that they are designed by somebody who does junk journaling and creates things like what we create, because they're fabulous. You can always find something that just works. Let's just lay this out how I'm thinking, and we'll cut some corners actually. This one I want to round the corner, and I'm going to use my very best trio punch from Stampin' Up! That's retired to cut my triangles. Okay, now that's looking good there. This is looking nice here. I think that I need to stamp a few little bits on this, and I think I want to put some cheesecloth on. So let's do that. I'll just pull a little bit out. I want some texture. Some of you will have seen my last video and saw my collage process, and I usually always like to put a little bit of texture on. I really like the retro look of these flowers. Now, how I found these flowers was from another YouTuber called Jennifer. Hi Jennifer. And her channel is called Jennifer Loves Paper Crafting, and she does some lovely compositions, some junk journaling pages and tags and all the things that most of us do. However, she has a great eye for composition, and we've been watching each other for over a year now, and we comment on each other's videos. I'll put a link below for her because she has some wonderful projects, and if you have an opportunity to have a look at her channel, you should check it out because she's a very, very talented lady. So head over and give her some love, and like I said, she's excellent at collage composition. Okay, so I'm just putting down a little bit of glue stick. I'm just putting it on for a bit of texture. And it's just coming out the side there and out the bottom near the flower. Now before I glue that down, I'm just going to stamp a couple of very small things. A circle, doesn't really matter what it is, but I want to bring down a circle from up the top because I've got a circle there. And I also want to put in, let's do collected and filed. So that's looking good. We can possibly stick that on now. And I'm not going to glue the pocket shut, so I'm just going to put glue on 2/3 of it. Okay, we'll put the label on in a moment. Let's head on to this one. Okay, so to glue this down, I'm just going to use a little bit of glue stick, and then it'll get caught underneath my bee. And we'll glue our bee and label together. I just want to ink those up a little bit. And I'm okay about his wings sticking off a little bit. Let's glue him on there. And once again, I'm not gluing up the pocket of the tag. I'm just gluing 2/3 of him. Okay, the next thing I need to do is put a label on them. Now I have stamped out identity card for this one. And with the bee one, I thought it was appropriate to have something that started with the word bee. I pulled out a small talk from Tim Holtz. It says, "Be awesome today." Just a little sentiment down the bottom. Like that. And this one, I'm going to nestle that one just there. And I'll pull out my punch again, my very best trio punch, and punch a slot in them. And you'll see that I have a little bit of seam binding that I'm just going to put in with some twine and tie that off. So I will do that, and I'll clear the decks and I'll bring out all of my other examples. I'll see you in a moment. Okay, I'm back, and I've tied on that seam binding with a little bit of twine, and I also have done some gold splatters. I'm not sure if the camera is picking that up. You can see that it's a pocket tag, and then on the back I just stuck on a little piece of the leftover pattern paper. On one of them you'll see that I have covered some of the back so you could write on it, but you could put one of those nice labels on it actually, and it would be perfect for a journaling spot. So that's that one, and it's got lots of texture, and it was quick and easy to do because I'm using some of those pre-made tags that I made out of book pages. Now here's our other one, and you can see that it has got some gold splatters on it. It's got some seam binding and twine at the top, and it has a pocket as well. So nice and easy to do. And once again, you could stick a label on the back and you'd be done. So those are the two that we did together. Now let's have a look at some of the others. So this one here is a red one with one of those red flowers. And with this one, instead of using the cheesecloth as the texture, I actually used the tissue paper. And you can see that I have put tissue paper behind the image and behind the label, just so that it's got some texture. This one here, I used tissue paper on the back, and I also put a little bit of thread, like sewing thread, in the background. I didn't do that on any of the others. I did stamp quite a few numbers on this one, just to give that punch of black. And it's a pocket, just like the others, and it's plain on the back, and it's got some gold splatters. I'll just pull those down so that they're in the view a little bit better. This one here, it's similar to the one that we did where I did some label stamping. You can see that once again it's a pocket. It's got graphic 45 pattern paper, just like all of the others. and one of those digital labels, and just a little bit of mark making. This one, when I made the tag, I accidentally made the tag the correct way around one way and upside down the other. But it doesn't matter because I can cover that with some paper down the track if I want to use it for something. And this one has a moth on it. And this was actually the first one I made. And it's once again a pocket. And it says use your wings. And on the back you can see that I had lots of other stuff going on. It had images of flowers or bulbs. And so I put a piece of paper on the back of it and used up a little bit of scrap that was on my desk. And you can see once again it has a pocket in it. Now this one here, I've actually drawn a line around some of it as well. I'm not sure whether you can see that, but there's a perimeter black line around some of it. So there we go. I'll pull them all together in case you want to take a screenshot. There's my tags that I made out of my pre-made stash from a mass make, and they're the tags that I made out of those back in March. And I'm going to be doing a new series about using up our stash and using things that we make, because I've got so many wonderful things that I've made, and I've got so many beautiful products that I need to be using and enjoying. All right, I hope you really enjoyed this project, and I will leave all of those links down in the description, all of the digitals, the link for my video on how to make tags out of book pages, and also the information about Toni and Jennifer. So that was lots of fun, and I hope it's inspired you to pull out all of those things that you've made in a mass make, or you've made and you've got them, but they're in the one day I'll use them pile. Well, today's the day for me. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, think about subscribing to the channel. It really helps the channel grow. And leave me a comment about the things in your craft room that you need to start using. I know for me, it's scrapbook paper is the big item that I really need to start busting. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, making something fun and new. And I will see you very soon with another project. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Bye for now.